Happy New Year!
Hi friends, welcome to Pictures and Paintings. I am painting parrots for the last few months now, but this particular painting is very special for me. The Indian ring-necked parrots. When I was growing up, I have actually had a couple of them as my pets, so I could really relate to them, and it was pretty nostalgic for me when I painted this picture. My second painting in a A3 size sheet, and I actually wanted to compose a scene which will tell a story. One thing which strikes about most of the birds is the amount of care they take to raise their babies. So I wanted to portray a scene which depicts that. So in fact, the picture that you see is actually composed from multiple reference. For the mother, the face is from one reference, the body posture is from another, and the tail is something I imagined and I constructed it. And then the babies, all the three babies are from three different images. And then the male, that's again from a different image. So one of the big challenges I had in this particular picture is to get the composition right, a believable composition, so that it doesn't look like they are all collaged or pasted together. This is Sivaraman. I'm going to walk you through how I painted this picture.
I was a little nervous at the start. I started it off with the female bird on the left hand side and the three chicks. They were relatively straightforward because I was clear in my mind how I wanted them, but that was not the case with the male bird on top. The initial plan for the male bird was to make it look like it has already come fed the chicks and was about to fly away. But then as I sketched, I realized it wasn't integrating well with the rest of the family. In fact, the bird looking away from the camera and being on top was looking as if it was a distraction to the entire picture. Not being very convinced, at that stage I decided I will go for a different pose. And then I did a little bit of scouting, found one more picture which I thought would suit well for this one. All this while, for the first pass of the sketching, I kept my pencil drawing very very light so that it was easy to erase off without leaving any marks on the paper and then redraw. And when I'm happy with how it has come out, do one more pass of sketching on top of it, a little bit more darker and thicker, which I can retain till the painting stage. I use the masking fluid to mask the highlights in the eyes, the food particle on the beak, and the saliva which you can see. I started the painting with the eyes and beak. One thing to note here is the beak and eye of juvenile birds are different from the fully grown adult birds. They get their full coloration in the beaks only when they grow fully. Consciously used a little bit of orange and purple tone on the beaks of the juvenile birds and kept it more reddish in the adult birds. Both the adult birds have reddish black tint at the base of their beaks, which is missing in the juvenile birds. If you look at the eyes, the juvenile birds have a very dilated dark black eyes. In the adult birds, you can see the cornea more visible and the region around the eyes have a little bit of brownish yellow tone. These are things that characterizes the chicks the from the adult ones. These kind of small little details are very very important when we compose our image from multiple references. After painting the eyes and beaks of all the birds, I started painting the green plumage. I used sap green and emerald green for most of the green color. The little trick over here is to add a little bit of yellow to sap green, and that gives a more warmer tone to the green. And similarly, wherever dark green is needed, we can add a tint of brown to it. So adding that little bit of warmth to green makes it look a lot more natural. I kept the base pass very light and then started adding the darker regions around the eyes and the lower part of the body. And once wash of everything was done, I used emerald green to paint the darker regions. And immediately after painting the chicks, I painted the region around them to see how well they stand out. Used a lot of brown and dark green to paint the shadows in the tree hole. So after that I removed off the masking fluid. I painted the small little food particles. I can proudly say that the food particles and the saliva is a little value add to this painting, which I'm really proud of. I always feel small little details like these makes a painting a lot more believable and lively. While you get the big elements right, these make a huge difference in ensuring the viewer relates to our painting a lot more than normal. And started with the adult birds. I basically had to repeat what I did for the chicks. And one thing which I consciously did was wherever the light is hitting the bird, I kept the base wash very light. One interesting fact over here is the reference which I was using to paint the mother was actually a male bird. So I had to consciously ensure I don't paint the colorful rings around the neck of the bird which is feeding the babies in the painting. So this is where when we compose our own pictures by mixing and matching multiple references, we do enough homework to ensure we don't get the facts wrong. After painting the mom, I started painting the dad. As I was painting, I realized the body proportions of the male and female birds were slightly different. The female bird was looking more stout and broader than the male bird. Luckily, my passes were very faint at this time, so I made the sides of the body slightly bigger to match the proportions of the female bird. Another point to keep in mind when we compose our picture, how good are our scales? For someone like me who hasn't formally studied art, it's always a conscious question which I keep asking myself whether the proportions are working out, whether something is looking odd in the picture. And as long as we are able to figure it out early in the day, it gives us an opportunity to correct it, like in this particular case. At this stage, I was happy with how the parakeet family had come, so I decided to move on to the tree. I wasn't too happy with the amount of details I have added on the trees during the pencil sketching stage. So I again penciled in a few more creases and dents. Once I felt it would work, I started painting it. I started off by painting the region just around the chicks. So these parrots normally build their nest on dry coconut trees. They use their beak to create the hole and build the nest. So normally the entrance of the hole will be very rough. So that is one thing I wanted to capture well. So the layers that you can see around the entrance adds to the reality of how the nest looks like. And that's to an extent is one of my favorite portion in this entire image. And the other thing I wanted to add over here is while I was painting the tree, I did not actually do much. It wasn't very demanding at all. All that I had to do was just focus on the creeps which were there and the dents which were there. So once I got those dark creeps in, automatically it started standing out against the color of the tree. Finally, with the pass of the tree done, I wanted to do the background. I did not want to give a very dominant color which would distract from the birds. So I gave a subtle tone of blue to offset it from the white color. And then the big test of adding the shadows. Well, I wanted to give a real dark shadow. I wasn't sure if it would spoil the image, so I kept the tone pretty subtle, but then giving indication of where the birds are in contact with the tree. Interestingly, while I was painting the tree, there were multiple times my hand was going over the food particles, trying to remove it as if something was over there. Even to me as an artist, it was a big success. The food particles had come out really well, and it was telling a story by itself. And then I did one final round of darkening the sky, the shadow regions of the parakeets, and a little bit of color onto the tree. And then that's it. I was done. Like I told, this is a picture which is very close to my heart, and I'm really curious to know what you think of it. So I would really appreciate if you can take a few moments, leave a comment on what you think. And yes, if you like what you have seen, please subscribe to our channel and hit the bell notification so that whenever we release a new video, you get notified. To summarize, when I compose my own image, the top three things that I normally look out for would be during sketching stage, whether I'm convinced with the pose. The second would be to get the correct scale or the proportion of the characters relative to each other. And then third would be doing a little bit of homework and study of the subject to get as much of factual data right about the subject that we are painting.
Thank you for watching this. See you soon in the next one. Until then, bye bye.